It's the witness's time. Do not censor the witness.
I'm not censoring the witness. I'm not censoring the witness. He's still...
You're not censoring the witness. You just tried to ban him from speaking. That's like saying, it's like some guy's punching you in the nose. Your nose is now flat. Your bones are crushed. There's blood all over your face. And as he's punching you in the face, he's saying, I'm not punching you. I'm not punching you. That these people are evil.
Is it the custom of this committee to censor viewpoints that we disagree with from witnesses?
Mr. Chairman, I have
a point of order.
a motion on the table.
I want to follow the rules that the Republicans made at the beginning of this conference with these House rules, so no.
Ms. Pasquette votes no. Mr. Lynch?
No.
Mr. Lynch votes no. Ms. Sanchez?
No, because it's violative of the rules.
Ms. Sanchez votes no. Ms. Wasserman Schultz?
No to allowing a witness to degrade and defame others and violate the rules and not have his testimony and degradation amplified rather than given in executive session.
Ms. Wasserman Schultz votes no. Mr. Connolly?
No to the Soviet Politburo.
Mr. Connolly votes no. Mr. Garamendi?
No.
Mr. Garamendi votes no. Mr. Allred? Ms. Garcia?
No.
Ms. Garcia votes no. Mr. Goldman?
No to hate speech.
Mr. Goldman votes no.
So they just tried, for those that don't understand parliamentary procedure, I know most of you do, the leftoids just tried to make the hearing closed door, no cameras, no press, because RFK was going to testify. Democrats attack him for an hour, and he gets to respond for a few minutes and say, I've just been defamed here. This is insane.
Testimony, Mr. Kennedy, you are recognized for your opening statement.
Excuse me, point of order. I know that witnesses usually have 5 minutes. I see 10 minutes on the board. Is it going to be 10 minutes for every witness?
We'll give him 5 minutes, but we're pretty lax with this. We'll let him go for...
We are?
Yeah.
I've seen you gavel down on quite a number of witnesses.
We've given senators and former Democrat members of Congress and all kinds of folks
neither. He's neither.
I'm just saying in past history.
Okay.
But
Let's watch the time for all the witnesses.
And if you want to cut him off and censor him some more, you're welcome to do it.
Oh, that's not my job.
Oh, yes, it is.
That's your job. Why don't you threaten a witness so that they can not want to be a witness?
Mr. Kennedy is recognized for his opening statement. We'll give him 5 minutes, more or less, and then we'll move to the next one.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman, maybe we could put 5 minutes on the clock then.
Yeah.
Not 10.
It's so blatant.
5 on the clock and we'll start it running.
He's trying not to laugh because it's so obvious.
Mr. Kennedy, we're glad you were here. We will now proceed with opening statement. Before I do, I want to introduce the guy sitting behind you, Mr. Kennedy, who was a former colleague of ours and maybe more importantly for me, a good friend of mine, Dennis Kucinich, who served in the United States Congress for 14 years, I believe, and great Buckeye.
Dennis Kucinich. Dennis Kucinich, this guy right here. I remember when I was in my early 20s, I think I was like 20, 21. This guy was the biggest scumbag. He bit into a sandwich and there was an olive seed, an olive pit in the sandwich. His teeth were already cracked open anyway, but he bit into the sandwich and it cracked his tooth and he ended up suing the sandwich maker $150,000. That was the most expensive sandwich on the planet. Here, I already looked it up here. Here we go, Dennis Olive Pit. The tortured tale of Representative Dennis Kucinich and his olive pit. Heard the tale of the vegan and the olive pit? A man bites into a sandwich wrap and his tooth splits in half. If your tooth is splitting in half because it bit into a seed, it was going to split in half anyway. Below the crown and into the bone, an unpitted olive did the damage. The tooth becomes infected. The man has an adverse reaction to antibiotics, and the emergency medical intervention is ordered. 6 replacement teeth later, a man sues the sandwich maker for $150,000. Where can I get in line to find these sandwiches? I would love to bite into all of them. $150,000 over a sandwich. Politicians are just gonna be politicians. That's this guy right here. That's this dude right here. Scumbag.
As well, and we appreciate your service, Dennis, and your commitment to the First Amendment. We'll now go with opening testimony. Mr. Kennedy, you are recognized for your opening statement.
Criminals.
Excuse me, point of order. I know that witnesses usually have 5 minutes. I see 10 minutes on the board. Is it going to be 10 minutes for every witness?
We'll give him 5 minutes, but we're pretty lax with this. We'll let him go for...
We are?
Yeah.
Yeah, we are. This is a testimony about censorship.
I've seen you gavel down on quite a number of witnesses.
We've given senators and former Democrat members of Congress and all kinds of folks.
Neither. He's neither.
I'm just saying in past history.
Okay,
in
okay.
committee. But
Let's just watch
you,
the time for all the witnesses.
and if
then.
you want to cut him off and censor him some
See how they're all going into censorship mode?
more, you're welcome to do it.
Oh, that's not my job. That's your job. Why don't you threaten a witness so that they can not want to be a
Mr.
witness?
Kennedy is recognized for his opening statement. We'll give him 5 minutes, more or less, and then we'll move to the next one. Mr. Kennedy, go right ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman, maybe we could put 5 minutes on the clock then, not 10.
Could we put 5 on the clock and we'll start it running?
He's in disbelief.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
He tried not to laugh.
I want to put aside my written statement for a moment and address one of the points that was brought up. I think an important point by the ranking member, that this body ought to be concerning itself with the with issues that impact directly the American people. 5 minutes into my speech, when I was talking about Paul Revere, YouTube deplatformed me. I didn't talk about vaccines in that speech. I didn't talk about anything that was a verboten subject. I just was talking about my campaign.
You know, it's amazing how many videos I have on YouTube or had on YouTube that YouTube takes down because I'm speaking the truth.
We ought to be happy with each other as Americans. But I was shut down. And that is why the First Amendment's important. Debate, congenial, respectful debate is the fertilizer, it's the water, it's the sunlight for our democracy. We need to be talking to each other. Now, this is a letter that many of you signed, many of my fellow Democrats. I've spent my life in this party. I've devoted my life to the values of this party. 102 people signed this. This itself is evidence of the problem that this hearing was convened to address. This is an attempt to censor a censorship hearing. The charges in this, and by the way, censorship is antithetical to our party. It was appalling to my father, to my uncle, to FDR, to Harry Truman, to Thomas Jefferson, as the chairman referred to. It is the basis for democracy. It sets us apart from all of the previous forms of government. We need to be able to talk, and the First Amendment was not written for easy speech. It was written for the speech that nobody likes you for.
Exactly.
And I was censored not just by the Democrats.
Yeah, hate speech is free speech. Free speech is subjective. Hate speech can be anything. It's so stupid.
Administration. I was censored by the Trump administration. I was the first person censored by as the chairman pointed out, by the Biden administration 2 days after it came into office. It ordered a truthful, and by the way, they had to invent a new word called malinformation to censor people like me. There was no misinformation on my Instagram account. Everything I put on that account was cited and sourced to peer-reviewed publications or government databases. Nobody has ever pointed to a single piece of misinformation that I publish. I was removed for something they called malinformation. Malinformation is information that is true, but is inconvenient to the government, that they don't want people to hear. And that's antithetical to the values of our country. After I announced my presidency, it became more difficult for people to censor me outright. So now I'm subject to this new form of censorship, which is called targeted propaganda, where people apply pejoratives like anti-vax. I've never been anti-vaccine, but everybody in this room probably believes that I have been, because that's the prevailing narrative. Anti-Semitism, racism, these are the most appalling, disgusting pejoratives, and they're applied to me to silence me, because people don't want me to have that conversation about the war, about groceries, about inflation, about the war on the middle class in this country.
Yeah, the government doesn't like what he's saying, so call him racist. Call him an anti-Semite. You know, just defame him, destroy his character. That's what they do every time.
That we need to be having. And by the way, I want to say this while I'm on the record. that in my...
What was that judge? David Kavanaugh. Yeah, David Kavanaugh. They said that he was a rapist. He was going around raping people at rape parties. And then people believed it. Man, I'm telling you, we're living in clown world.
Entire life, and why I'm under oath. In my entire life, I have never uttered a phrase that was either racist or anti-Semitic.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to raise a point of order.
Gentlelady can state a point of order.
Point of order pursuant to House Rule 11, Clause 2, which Mr. Kennedy is violative of. I move that we move into executive session because Mr. Kennedy has repeatedly made despicable anti-Semitic and anti-Asian comments as recently as last week.
Citation, please.
Rule 11, Clause 2 says, whenever it is asserted by a member of the committee that the evidence or testimony at a hearing may tend to defame, degrade, or incriminate any person, or it is asserted by a witness that the evidence or testimony that the witness would give at a hearing may tend to defame, degrade, or incriminate the witness, and it goes on. Mr. Kennedy, among many other things, has said, I know a lot now about bioweapons. We put out hundreds of millions of dollars into ethnically targeted microbes.
True.
The Chinese have done the same thing. In fact, COVID-19, there is an argument that it is ethnically targeted. COVID-19 attacks certain races.
Yeah, COVID-19 was created in a lab.
Disproportionately, the races that are most immune to COVID-19 are...
Gentlelady making a motion or a speech.
Man, what a liar.
I've made a motion to move into executive session because Mr. Kennedy's testimony...
Mr. Chairman,
Table.
I move to table the motion.
Table.
The gentleman from
Table.
Kentucky has moved to table.
Mr. Chairman, I ask for a roll call vote on the motion to table.
Well, let me ask the question. The question is on the motion to table. The gentlelady has asked for a roll call vote. The clerk will have to vote.
So what they're trying to do here is they're trying to turn off all the TV cameras. They're trying to censor this testimony, this hearing about censorship.
Step
Amazing.
back for a second. The clerk will have to come in. We'll call the roll on the motion to table.
Mr. Chairman, point of order.
Gentleman from Louisiana.
Is it the custom of this committee to censor viewpoints that we disagree with from witnesses?
Mr. Chairman,
Exactly.
I have,
That's not a
point of
I have
order.
a motion on
Exactly.
the table.
There's a motion and the vote's been
Move into
called.
executive session
We're waiting
because
for,
Mr.
we're waiting for
Kennedy
the clerks.
is violative of Rule 11, Clause 2.
Citation.
Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Jordan.
Yes.
Mr. Jordan votes yes. Mr. Issa. Mr. Massey.
Yes, to not censor.
Mr.
Yeah,
Massey
good.
votes yes. Mr. Stewart. Yes. Mr. Stewart votes yes. Ms. Stefanik.
Yes.
Ms. Stefanik votes yes. Mr. Gates. Mr. Johnson of Louisiana.
Yes.
Mr. Johnson of Louisiana votes yes. Mr. Armstrong.
Yes.
Mr. Armstrong votes yes. Mr. Stubbe. Mr. Bishop. Yes. Mr. Bishop votes yes. Ms. Kamak.
Yes.
Yeah, the Democrats are only doing this is because their donors are big tech, and big tech, all they do is censor everything.
Ms. Kamak votes yes. Ms. Hageman.
So much corruption,
Hageman
it's
votes yes.
insane.
Ms. Pasquette.
No, I want to follow the rules that the Republicans made at the beginning of this conference with these House rules, so no.
Ms. Pasquette votes no. Mr. Lynch. No. Mr. Lynch votes no. Ms. Sanchez.
No, because it's violative of the rules.
Ms. Sanchez votes
Clown
no.
world.
Ms. Wasserman Schultz.
No to allowing a witness to degrade and
This is not
defame
speech
others
time.
and violate the rules and not have his testimony and degradation and amplified
Mr. Chair.
rather than given in executive session.
Ms. Wasserman Schultz votes no. Mr. Connolly.
No to the Soviet Politburo.
They
Mr.
called,
Connolly votes no.
they called
Mr.
RFK
Garamendi.
a Soviet.
Mr. Garamendi votes no. Mr. Allred. Ms. Garcia.
No.
Ms. Garcia votes no. Mr. Goldman.
No to hate speech.
Mr. Goldman votes no.
Yeah, he's laughing too.
Mr. Gates. Yes.
Mr. Gates. Aye. Mr. Gates votes aye.
Crazy. Well, it looks like the ayes have it.
Clerk will report.
Mr. Chairman, there are 10 ayes and 8 noes.
The motion to table is agreed to. We will now move to our second witness, Ms. Moore.
Hairline. They came within 2 votes to censor.
You are recognized.
This all could have been shut down. Crazy. I don't know how the hell someone can just live being a Democrat today. This is not the Democrat Party today is not the Democrat Party before. This is something totally new. This is woke garbage. I mean, RFK RFK right here, he's a Democrat. It's unrecognizable now.
Mr. Kennedy, in your opening statement, you introduced us to this word malinformation. Can you tell us more about this made-up word, what it means, and some of the things that you've said or tried to say that you've been censored for that's been characterized as malinformation?
Yes, Congressman Massey, and if by your leave, I'd like to just respond very briefly to some of the, what I would call defamations that have been just applied to me by the ranking member. I'm happy to talk to you about my opinions on these issues, what you have stated and tried to associate me with.
You can't talk to these people.
Through guilt by association.
There's no reasoning to these people.
Virtually everything, every statement that you just made about me is inaccurate. I have never advised Black Americans not to receive vaccines. At one point you say I'm anti-vax, and that's a bad thing. The other moment you point out that all my children are vax. I'm fully compliant with the vaccine schedule myself, except for COVID.
Yeah, same here. I'm not taking it. Why would I take something that's experimental?
I took flu vaccines for 20 years straight. I have never been anti-vax. I have never told the public avoid vaccination. The only thing I've asked for, and my views are constantly misrepresented, so that the truth of what I believe is not, we're not allowed to have a conversation about that with the American people, which I believe vaccines should be tested with the same rigor
That's what I'm saying.
as other medicines and medications.
Yeah, it's untested. Why would I put something in my body created in a lab that's supposed to alter my DNA? It's not a vaccine. Vaccines are broken down viruses, and they put in the pieces of the virus so your body makes an immunity for it. This stuff actually reprograms your DNA. It makes your DNA produce the stuff that the virus makes, so your body has a reaction to it. This is brand new stuff. This is DNA therapy.
You tried to associate me a moment ago with the replacement theory.
This just reminded me of something. I saw a sign advertising children are getting strokes. Hold on a second. Here we go. Found it. Kids have strokes too. Know the warning signs. This has never been a thing ever since the little kid's been taking this vaccine, this experimental garbage. Just insane. Oh my God, now I'm going back in my memory. So the scientists that said, what was it, up to age 9 when little kids can take this vaccine, their reasoning, it was recorded on a Zoom call. Their reasoning was, well, we're not going to know what's going to happen to them unless we give it to them. That's what they, if I can find that, this is going to be excellent. Hold on, let's see if I can find that. I can't believe I just found this. I remember the Zoom call, never going to learn how safe the vaccine is unless we start giving it. Good God! Oh, so it was between the ages of 5. Yeah, they decided that they were going to give the vaccine to 5-year-olds. I remember looking at this. I remember thinking, these people are monsters. Anyway, back to the video.
Which is racist.
No, I did not say you
Time
had the
belongs to the
replacement
gentleman
theory.
from
I said my colleagues.
Time belongs to the gentleman from
I
Kentucky.
denounce that theory. It is racist, and I have never endorsed it or had any association with it. Our film on a medical... By the way, Bill Buxton, who is the Black CDC official who ultimately exposed the Tuskegee experiment, tried for years and years...
Oh, Tuskegee experiments. For those that don't know what the Tuskegee experiments are, I'm sure most of you know what the Tuskegee experiments are, but the Tuskegee experiments were doctors that, I guess, yeah, back in 1932, they injected black people with syphilis, and then a bunch of them died because they didn't know what syphilis did. They just knew it was bad for you. So they injected people with syphilis, and then they just watched them die. Let's see here. Tuskegee experiment, the infamous syphilis study. In order to track the disease's full progression, researchers provided no effective care to the study's African-American participants. Now, it's so stupid to call them African-Americans. They're not born in Africa. They're Americans. They were born here. If you're born in America, you're an American. They should just say Black Americans. Studies Black American participants experienced severe health problems, including blindness, oh my God, blindness, mental impairment, or death. The Tuskegee experiment began in 1932 at a time where there was no known cure for syphilis, a contagious venereal disease, after being recruited by the promise of free medical care. That's why I don't like going to doctors. 600 Black American men in Malkin County. Oh, Tuskegee. Random fact, I remember doing a Black History thing in like the 5th grade. Rosa Parks was born as Rosa McCauley in Tuskegee, Alabama. All right, anyway. Alabama were enrolled in the project, which were aimed to study the full progression of the disease. It's like some guys in lab coats go up to you. Hey, listen, I got this shot full of virus. I don't know what it's going to do unless I inject it into you and watch you see what happens. It's insane. The participants were primarily sharecroppers, and many had never before visited a doctor. Doctors from the Public Health Service, which was running the study, informed the participants 399 people were shot up with syphilis. 201 were given placebos. Good God. The men were monitored by health workers and given placebo. So the story got leaked to the press. 28 participants out of the 399 died. 100 more had passed away from related complications. 40 of their wives contracted it from their husbands, and 19 of their children contracted it from the wives at birth. They received a $10 million payout. It's funny, like whenever the government does something terrible, they print your money. They take your money and they give it to someone else. There's never any accountability. No one ever goes to jail. They just take your money. They'll even sue you with your own money. It's insane. Good God.
To CDC to stop it for 40 years. Finally, he got relief by walking into my uncle's office in the building next door. He held hearings and ended the experiment. I remember that very well. And to say that I created a film that encourages blacks not to get adequate medical care is just completely abhorrent.
Don't misuse my words.
It's the witness's time. Do not censor the witness.
I'm not censoring the witness. I'm not censoring the witness. He's still.
You're not censoring the witness. You just tried to ban him from speaking. Lady, this is the same lady that just tried to ban him.
It's my time, and I've given it to the witness. Do not censor him.
I'm not censoring him.
If the views,
that's like saying it's like some guy's punching you in the nose. Your nose is now flat. Your bones are crushed. There's blood all over your face. And as he's punching you in the face, he's saying, "I'm not punching you. I'm not punching you." That these people are evil.
that you and others have applied to me, have attributed to me, if they were actually true, I can see why I shouldn't be able to testify here today. Those are not true. These are defamations and malignancies that are used to censor me, to prevent people from listening to the actual things that I'm saying. And I think, ranking member, that we should have a real conversation rather than an exchange of ad hominem attacks. And answer very quickly to your question, the term malinformation was coined to describe information that Facebook and Twitter and the other social media sites understood was true, but that the White House and other federal agencies wanted censored anyway for political reasons because it challenged official orthodoxies. I'll give you one example. I was included in a group called the Disinformation Dozen. And Facebook and others were asked to censor us, which they did. And by the way, my Heck Aaron post, it was taken down. My whole Instagram account would not.
Yeah, the government, I should skip back a second. Yeah, the government goes to social media companies and says, hey, censor these people. Elon Musk just released the documents for Twitter because the government was going to Twitter and saying, hey, censor this person, censor this political party, and they do it. It's insane. The government tells them what to do because the government gives them money.
900,000 people was taken down because of that. Oh, they knew, Facebook knew that the Disinformation Dozen claim, and what they said was the Disinformation Dozen came from this very shady group called the Center for Preventing Digital Hate in England that's funded by dark money. that should be looked into. They claim that 65% of the vaccine misinformation on the internet was generated by those 12 people. Facebook itself said that is impossible. That is false information. We know that not to be true. And yet, when the White House asked them to censor this disinformation dozen, including me, they did it anyway when they knew it to be untrue.
My time has expired. I yield back.
Gentleman yields back.
Mr. Chairman, I have a unanimous consent motion before. I would like to introduce page 2 of the transcript of Laura Demlow, where specifically she says, if someone, she's asked, if someone were to leave here today, were to leave at this interview and were to suggest or imply or state that when you said, quote, the laptop was real, unquote, that it meant that the FBI had affirmatively determined in October 2020 that the laptop belonged to Hunter Biden, that the contents belonged to Hunter Biden, that the contents had not been manipulated in some way, they would be misrepresenting what you said, correct? Answer, they would be misrepresenting what...
Yeah, that was Hunter Biden's laptop. And we know because he took selfie videos, HD videos of himself. I can't even say it on YouTube. On little children. How it works is Epstein worked for the CIA, and Epstein's job was to get dirt on politicians so that they could be controlled. China has their own Epstein Island. They said, hey, Hunter, if you want to make these deals, you want to make this money, we need blackmail on you. We need to know that we can control you. And Biden's like, okay, yeah, sure, whatever. So he goes in there, he's recorded banging on over. I can't even say it. I'm not allowed to say it. So I can't even say where you can find it. That's a whole, I can't even say this on YouTube. I might as well stop while I'm ahead. It is insane.
I said because I don't have much knowledge of that.
Without objection, I think that's already been introduced, but without objection, we'll do it again.
Sorry, it's
stand
page
in recess.
55.
We stand in recess for approximately 45 minutes, and we'll be back and right back at it. Thank you all, and you can head back from here.
Evil, evil, evil people. Evil people. All right, well, they're in recess for the next 45 minutes. Guys, this is new content for me. If you like this kind of stuff, subscribe. I'll make more videos. Remember, Jesus Christ is your only path to salvation. God bless.
But I tell you, if you have a problem figuring out whether you're for me or Trump, then you ain't black.